So the data imbalance scenario, where you've got big chunks on one shard, little chunks on the other shard, and basically, it's 6 gigs of data on one shard and 500 megs on the other, something along those lines. How do you end up in that particular situation? Well, there's multiple different ways. The most common one, again, is a poor shard key. We've already covered the one where the chunk is no longer splittable and just keeps growing and growing and can't be moved off. That's a particularly poor shard key where you can't split anymore. But there are other poor shard keys whereby you have just inserted too much data into a particular range. The chunk hasn't been split yet. Maybe you've got splits turned off. Maybe you've had your config servers turned off, something similar. And the chunks have just grown very, very large on one particular shard because of a poor shard key. Again, there is the pre-splitting error, where you created a lot of really small chunks and a couple of giant ones just by accident because of how you pre-split things. And then there's just some usage. Maybe you've got the balancer turned off, or perhaps even you've got you're just waiting for the chunks to be auto-split so the balancer will actually realize, but you're not actually writing to those chunks. Because remember, auto-splits require traffic to the chunk. The heuristic that's used to split a chunk, it checks to see if you've hit 20% of the maximum chunk size. If you're never writing to those chunks, they'll never be split. They'll never, therefore, be made into lots and lots of smaller chunks, so the balancer realizes there's an imbalance there and moves things around. So what do you do in a data imbalance scenario? And the answer to that is very similar before. You can wait for the balancer to do its job, or you can do manual splits and then wait for the balancer to do its job. Or you can turn the balancer off and do manual splits and manual moves to move things along, as it were. And that's how you can get back to a good data balance. So at the moment, there's no automated way for you to get out of this scenario. You have to manually split, wait for the balancer, manually split and do manual moves, or just wait for the auto splits and balancing to actually happen. But in the future, we do hope to have tooling around this and make it a lot easier for you to fix. The all chunk info script that we referenced earlier in the week, that can give you the information you need to figure out where your imbalance is, which chunks are imbalanced, and how imbalanced they are. If you remember, the output gave you number of documents, size of chunk. So you're not going into a completely blindfolded. You can use the all chunk info script that we've covered previously to figure out where your imbalances are.